The day my sister recognized me was the day everything ended. For 20 years, nobody knew who I was. They only knew me as Mama Jaburu, the woman whose restaurant never lacked customers, the woman whose food brought people from different states, the woman who never seemed to grow old. Then one afternoon, I looked up from my cooking pot and saw a familiar face standing at the entrance. At first, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. But they weren't. It was my sister. The same sister who buried me 20 years earlier. Our eyes met. The spoon slipped from my hand. The entire restaurant suddenly felt cold. Then she whispered one word. Jaburu. My heart stopped. Because there was only one problem. My sister wasn't supposed to find me. Nobody was. You see, 20 years ago, I died. And the secret I had been hiding from the entire town was about to be exposed. Before people called me Mama Jaburu. Before politicians sat in my restaurant. Before people traveled across states just to eat my food. I was simply a village girl. A girl with dreams. A girl who believed she would one day fall in love, get married, and have a happy family. I was only 19 years old. 19. Still young enough to laugh at small things. Still young enough to believe life was fair. I didn't know that my future had already been sold. You see, my father owed a wealthy farmer a lot of money. For years he had borrowed from him. For years he failed to pay. Every harvest season he promised repayment. Every harvest season he failed. The debt grew. And grew. And grew. Until one afternoon, the man came to collect. I remember that day like it was yesterday. The sun was hot. I was in the backyard grinding pepper. Then I saw him. Chief Nook. A man old enough to be my grandfather. A man whose wrinkles had wrinkles. I thought he had come for his money. I was wrong. Very wrong. He pointed at me and said something that changed my life forever. I will take the girl. At first I laughed. I thought he was joking. Nobody else laughed. My father lowered his head. My mother began crying. And that was when I realized the truth. They had already agreed. I screamed. I begged. I knelt. I cried until my throat hurt. Nobody listened. 3 weeks later, I became the wife of a man I never loved. And the prisoner of a life I never chose. People think pain kills slowly. They are wrong. Hopelessness kills faster. And every day inside Chief Nook's house felt hopeless. Nothing I did was ever enough. If food was too hot, he complained. If food was too cold, he complained. If rain delayed me, he complained. If I spoke, he shouted. If I remained silent, he shouted. Some days he beat me so badly I could barely stand. Other days he insulted me until I wished I could disappear. But God gave me 2 reasons to keep living. My children. My son Obina. And later, my daughter Chioma. Those 2 children became my entire world. When I looked at them, I remembered why I had to survive. No matter how hard life became. No matter how many times I cried myself to sleep. I had to survive. for them. But there was something else that saved me. Something many people never knew. Cooking. I loved cooking. Not because it made money. Not because it impressed people. But because it gave me peace. Whenever I stood over a fire, the world disappeared. Whenever I stirred a pot, my problems became smaller. And whenever people tasted my food and smiled, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Happiness. Soon my neighbors started visiting more often. At first they came to borrow salt, then pepper, then water. But I wasn't foolish. I knew why they came. They came because of the smell from my kitchen. They came because they wanted a taste. And I always shared. Even when there wasn't enough. Even when my own children would have to eat less. I shared. Because feeding people made me happy. Little did I know. That same love for cooking would follow me beyond the grave. The night I died started like every other night. That was what made it so frightening. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing warned me. Nothing prepared me. Chief Nook returned home drunk. Very drunk. The kind of drunk that made everybody nervous. I knew trouble was coming the moment I saw his eyes. But I didn't know it would be my last night alive. The argument started over something small. To this day, I cannot even remember what it was. Maybe the food wasn't ready. Maybe somebody annoyed him earlier. Maybe he simply wanted someone to suffer. All I remember is the shouting. Then the insults. Then the beating. Then the kicks. Then the screams. My screams. The children's screams. The neighbors listening from behind closed windows. Too afraid to interfere. Then suddenly, he grabbed me. Dragged me outside. Opened the gate. And threw me into the road. Like rubbish. Then he slammed the gate shut. I can still hear my children crying. Mama. 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 I stood there bleeding. Hungry. Heartbroken. And completely alone. I started walking. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted the pain to stop. Then suddenly, I saw headlights. Bright headlights. Coming fast. Too fast. A horn blasted. I turned. And everything went black. When I opened my eyes, people were crying. Women were wailing. Men were praying. At first, I thought I had survived. Then I saw the grave. And inside that grave was me. I froze. My heart stopped. My mind refused to understand. I looked again. And again. And again. But the body inside that coffin was mine. The face was mine. The wrapper was mine. Everything was mine. I screamed. Nobody heard me. I cried. Nobody saw me. Then I watched them lower my coffin into the ground. I watched my children cry. I watched my sister cry. And I watched my husband stand there with a face so cold it frightened me. That should have been the end of my story. But it wasn't. Because as I stood beside my own grave, something inside me refused to rest. I wasn't done. Not yet. My children still needed me. And a mother's love is stronger than death, stronger than the grave, stronger than anything this world can understand. And that was the moment my second life began. The day they buried me. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The worst came afterward. Because death did not stop me from seeing everything. I saw my children. I saw their tears. And I saw the man responsible for my suffering continue his life as if nothing had happened. For weeks, I remained close to my home. Watching. Waiting. Praying that somehow things would become better for Obinna and Chioma. Instead, they became worse. Much worse. Only 2 weeks after my burial, Chief Nook brought another woman into my home. My home. The same room where I had cried myself to sleep. The same kitchen where I had cooked. The same compound where my children took their first steps. Another woman walked into it as though I had never existed. I watched from outside the compound. Helpless. Furious. Heartbroken. And that was when I realized something. Death had taken my body. But not my love. And certainly not my anger. The new wife was cruel. Not only to my children, but to everyone. She treated Obinna and Chioma like burdens. Like unwanted guests. Like reminders of a woman she wished everyone would forget. Then one morning, I watched something that shattered my heart. Chief Nook packed my children's belongings. A few clothes. A small bag. Nothing more. Then he sent them away. Away from their home. Away from everything they knew. Away to my elder sister, Mama Ogochi. The same sister who had cried the loudest at my funeral. As the vehicle carrying my children disappeared down the road, I followed it. Because wherever my children went, I would go. My sister was kind. But she was poor. Very poor. She barely had enough food for herself. Yet when Obinna and Chioma arrived, she welcomed them with open arms. That night, after the children fell asleep, I saw her crying. Not because she didn't love them, but because she didn't know how she would provide for them. School fees, food, clothing, medicine. The burden was enormous. I watched her kneel beside her bed and pray. Then she cried herself to sleep. As I stood there watching, something happened. Something I still cannot fully explain. A strange warmth filled the room. The small wooden box beneath her bed suddenly opened. Inside it appeared money. Fresh notes. More money than she needed. I froze. My sister froze. She searched the room. Nobody was there. But somehow, I knew. I had done it. From that day forward, whenever my children needed something, money appeared. School fees were paid. Food was bought. Books were purchased. Clothes were replaced. Years passed. And somehow, my children never lacked. One evening, while watching my children sleep, I made a decision. I would no longer wander aimlessly. I would do the one thing I loved most. I would cook. The next morning, I found myself in another town. Far away from my old life. Far away from painful memories. There, I rented a small roadside shop. Nothing special. Just a tiny place with 2 benches and 1 cooking pot. On the first day, I cooked rice and stew. Only enough for 10 people. The food finished before noon. On the second day, I cooked more. It finished again. By the end of the month, people were already talking about my food. By the end of the year, people were traveling from neighboring towns. By the 5th year, people were crossing state borders. Nobody knew why they loved my food so much. They only knew they couldn't stop coming. Soon I had 20 giant pots cooking every day. Rice, beans, jollof, soup, pounded yam. Everything sold out. Every single day. Even before evening. Some customers waited for hours. Others slept nearby just to be first in line. Politicians visited. Governors visited. Celebrities visited. And every time someone tasted my food, they smiled. The same smile I had always loved seeing. The same smile that had made me happy when I was alive. Years became decades. Something strange began happening. Everybody grew older. Except me. Workers who joined me in their 20s became grandparents. Customers developed gray hair. Children became adults. But I remained exactly the same. The same face. The same smile. The same age. People noticed. Of course they noticed. They whispered. Some said I was blessed. Others said I was cursed. A few claimed I was a witch. But nobody could prove anything. And nobody wanted to stop eating my food. So the rumors remained rumors. Then came the day everything changed. The day destiny finally caught up with me. One afternoon, my sister visited the town. She had heard stories about a famous restaurant. A restaurant with the best food in the region. Curious, she decided to try it. The moment she entered, a strange feeling came over her. The voice. The smile. The way I stirred the pot. Something felt familiar. I looked up and saw her. For a moment, neither of us moved. The entire restaurant seemed to disappear. Then she whispered one word. Jaburu. The spoon slipped from my hand. My heart sank. Because I knew. The moment she recognized me, my mission was over. The promise I had made beside my grave had finally been fulfilled. My children were grown, educated, successful, safe. They no longer needed me. And because of that, I could no longer stay. The room suddenly became cold. Customers looked around nervously. Then before anyone could understand what was happening, I vanished. Gone. Just like that. The woman they knew as Mama Jaburu disappeared forever. But before I left, one final debt remained unpaid. Chief Nook. The man who caused my death. For years he escaped justice. But justice was patient. His crops failed. Every season. His livestock died mysteriously. One after another. His workers abandoned him. His savings vanished. His friends stopped visiting. Then the woman he had married 2 weeks after my death finally saw what he truly was. Because poverty revealed his real character. He beat her too. Just as he beat me. He insulted her. Just as he insulted me. And one morning, she packed her things and left. Never to return. Soon Chief Nook became the poorest man in the village. The same man who once owned fields as far as the eye could see. The same man who once mocked others. Now sat alone. Hungry. Forgotten. Abandoned. Exactly the way he had abandoned me. Years later, he died alone. No wealth. No respect. No family. Only regret. Today, Obinna is successful. Chioma is successful. My sister lives comfortably. And the restaurant. It never opened again. Not once. People waited. For days. For weeks. For months. Nobody came. The giant pots remained untouched. The chairs gathered dust. And no matter who tried to reopen the restaurant, the food never tasted the same. Because the secret ingredient was never pepper. Never spices. Never recipes. It was love. The love of a mother who refused to abandon her children. The love of a woman who refused to let death have the final word. And that is why people still tell my story today. The story of the woman who cooked after death. The story of Mama Jaburu.